Good evening. For just a few moments, I want to talk about the idea of what it is to be ordinary and then go to extraordinary. So the first thing I want to do is, what does it mean to be extraordinary? I went on Google and I just Googled it up real quick, and Google said it is something that is very unusual or remarkable. And usually when I think of the word extraordinary, I think of, maybe like pro athletes or big scholars. So for me, I associate the word extraordinary with football. So I'm an Alabama fan. I think of Coach Nick Saban. He's won 6 national championships and 5 of them with Alabama, and the only other coach to ever do that is Paul Bear Bryant. So I then went along and said, okay, I live in Florida, so let's think of something that can relate to y'all. I went to the Florida Gators. And I said, what is extraordinary about the Florida Gators? And I thought for a long time, and I really couldn't come up with anything. So all that being said, someone who is extraordinary is something that is great, or someone that is great at what they do, or have the talents to rise above the majority. But we're all ordinary people here, and so how can we be extraordinary Christians? If you want to open your Bibles, I'm going to be reading out of Exodus chapter 3. I'll start in verse 11 and skip a few verses down. And in the story, we all remember Moses as a leader who led the Israelites out of captivity, who led them across the Red Sea, who led them through the wilderness and all the way up to the Promised Land. He was a great leader, and he is someone who we wouldn't really assume to be ordinary. So starting in Exodus 3, we're going to begin in verse 11. And it says, "But Moses said to God, 'Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?'" Skip down to verse 13. "Then Moses said to God, 'If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them?' And then go to chapter 4 and verse 1. "Then Moses answered, 'But behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, the Lord did not appear to you.'" Now, from these passages, we read how timid and how scared Moses was to lead the Israelites out of captivity. He said things like, "Who am I? What shall I say? They will not believe me." And these are things anybody would have said. I know if I was in this exact situation and being told to lead millions of people out of captivity, I would have said, "Who am I? What shall I say? And they will not believe me." Because it's not just the time and it's not just the amount of confidence that Moses had by himself to do these things. So now if you will read back in Exodus now in verse 12, we'll see what God says. He said, "But I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain." Now verses 14 and 15. God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you." God also said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations." And finally in chapter 4, verses 11 and 12. "Then the Lord said to him, 'Who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore, go and I will be your mouth and teach you what you shall speak.'" See, it wasn't just through time, it wasn't just through practice where Moses gained the confidence and the ability to lead the Israelites, but it was through God's power. And like it said in chapter 4, verse 12, "I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak." It is God who makes us extraordinary. It's not just our own self or our own practices that makes us extraordinary from ordinary. And despite the way Moses felt at the start, he was able to go where God wanted him to go and do what God wanted him to do. And God has laid out a path for us too in his word. And sometimes that path may seem challenging. I mean, I don't think any of us are going to go up and lead 2 million people out of captivity. But we have challenges laid out in front of us. And if we stick to his word and follow Jesus, then God will show us the path that we need to be extraordinary and get to heaven. So if you're looking for a way to let God in your life and you know that is through baptism, will you please come forward as we stand and sing?